Yes. Hey, Crystal, how are you?
I'm fine, little discombobulated this morning. You know how what happens when your schedule gets thrown.
Yep.
Um, it just throws everything off.
Yeah. Well, I was having internet issues today, and that was really funky. But I think we're doing well now. I think we're
Okay.
in the pink, as it
In
were.
the pink, yeah, I had some internet issues the other day.
So, the article that we want to get to is talks about questions that participants have, and this was interesting to me because I was talking with a prospect the other day, and
Hmm.
they were really confused about their ability to actually have a 401k plan as a single single entrepreneur. So this person is a what do you call it, a consultant. And
Hmm.
so, of course, I let him know, oh, yes, you can. And hopefully we'll have an appointment to talk about that. But so I thought it'd probably be a good idea to bring that up today for our audience. So what I'd like to do is read your bio, and then we can jump into the three questions, which are, why can't I just wait to sell the business? One, do I have to match? And then the third one, of course, is, do I have to share my profits? Sound good?
Awesome. Sounds
Okay.
fantastic.
All right, so here, let's go. I will get your bio here. And okay, so everyone, please allow me to introduce my friend and colleague, Crystal Mitchell. She is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. She's also the co director of Recycling Black Dollars, and she's on that other radio show that you should listen to called Co host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. It comes on weekly, I believe on Fridays, right, Crystal?
At 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. She's also an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Welcome, Crystal. Good to see you again.
Thank you, thank you. And I was, as I said before we came on air, this topic was a topic that we covered on the Business Zone last week. Having, in fact, it was titled "Will You Work Forever?" Because us entrepreneurs, we tend to work forever. Uh,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
that retirement is a different animal for us from the corporate world. So perfect timing.
You bet. And I think it's a great thing to bring about because for so many of us, we're living longer, and not necessarily better. And I think one of the reasons we may not be living better is that we're bored because we've stopped working. So for many of us, that side hustle that we have going on now could definitely turn into a retirement plan hustle. And so that means we're going to have businesses, perhaps. And if we're going to have businesses, we are eligible for retirement plans like 401ks, 403bs, 457s, and all that goes with it. So let's jump right in.
All
So the
right.
first, yeah. So the first question is, actually, I should ask, do you have any questions before I jump into uh, what it is that I wanted to talk about
No,
today?
like I said, I think this is a great conversation because the way entrepreneurs work. Um, uh, Me being a consultant myself and have been for the last 30 years.
Mhm.
Yeah, sometimes we think I have various friends that we don't call it retirement, we call it rewiring. We just
Okay.
move into a different facet that probably is
Okay.
less work intensive.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, this is a good topic.
Okay, great. All right, so the first question is, and I get this a lot, and I have for the last 20 years actually, is why can't I just sell my business, right? Or they'll say my business is my retirement, right? And so that is an issue, especially if you have plants and equipment and things like that, and you're looking to go into a smaller business, or if you already have a small business and you're looking to trade your working stuff, that is your laptops and all that kind of good stuff, and then sell your business off for what it's worth. And we
Mhm.
had various strategies to talk to people about why they may want to have a retirement plan. And then 2009 hit us, end of 2008, 2009, where the economy went down dramatically and people weren't willing to pay the kind of money that folks wanted to pay or wanted to receive for their business. And so, as a tool to help you get over that rough spot, we all think that our businesses are worth dramatically more than they actually are. So, in order to get over that rough spot, one thing is, number one, start saving for retirement so that you actually have some hard assets that you can call upon, or start saving for retirement so that you can fill in what your business doesn't actually provide. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think in these uncertain times, it's really good to have that backup and have multiple sources of income, because your business, as my old boss used to say, a large amount of your business, especially if you're a small business person, is you. And so if you're gone, your competition is going to get your clients, and they probably already have enough equipment. So your business may not be worth as much as you think it is on the open market there. So that's one thing, having that backup. The other things that I wanted to talk about, and I get this a lot, many of my friends that are small business folks are thinking that they have to match. And I'm just going to kind of make this a 1-2 sort of punch there, because they kind of go hand in hand with the third questions, which is, do I need to share my profits? So let's talk about the match first. Number one, no, you do not have to match to have a retirement plan. Is it a good idea? It really depends. If you're at a situation where you've hired some fairly highly skilled folks who are looking to put in the maximum that they can or close to that, then your need to have a match is not that great. And just quickly, the reason for that is when the IRS and the Department of Labor got together to set up retirement plans, they wanted to make sure that not only wealthy folks or business owners were contributing to the plan, they wanted to make sure that the plans were universal to all employees. And they did a couple of things. Number one, they mandated that the plans had to be universal to all the employees. The other is, how do we enforce that? And they use this system called testing. And what testing does is it determines if there is parity between what we call highly compensated folks and non-highly compensated folks. And that breaks down into family members and folks that make over X amount of dollars. I believe this year it's 150,000. Family members and those folks, and we suggest family members are immediate family, and it could be spouses as well, but at least immediate family, and then folks that make over 150,000 a year. Those two combined have to have parity with regard to the amount that they contribute and the percentage of their paychecks that they give. So two tests: one is contribution, and one is the amount of the percentage of their pay. That has to line up with parity with the non-highly compensated. So essentially, what happens is you'll have a third-party administrator or a company like what we call a provider, one of those big investment houses that probably don't necessarily want me to mention their name, but one of those big invested houses, and they will do the quote-unquote testing, which means they run a couple of formulas based on the amount that everyone has contributed in the organization and the percentage of everyone's pay that gets contributed. And if you fail that test, then the highly compensated folks have two choices. One is they have to give some money to the non-highly compensated folks, or they have to pull money out of the plan in order to make that equal. So getting back to our original question, do I have to match? Nope, not necessarily. If you want to contribute, you might need to match. It's not a foregone conclusion, though. And the amount of match that you have to contribute, that's kind of up in the air, too. It's not always a uniform amount. And it doesn't always have to be stated. Many folks are afraid that they've got these huge obligations if they start the retirement plan. And they have to make the retirement plan like the large company's retirement plan that they had when they were working. Nothing could be further from the truth. You can always start out small and then improve your plan as you go along, as you get used to it. In fact, many times when I sell a retirement plan to someone, I say, look, for the first year, let's just get the plan established. Okay. Let's just put it in place. And then we'll run the report, and see what the testing is. And if you
Mm-hmm.
need to make a contribution, then great. If you don't, then you're fine. Now, Crystal's probably sitting over there thinking, Jevon, you're usually pro-employee. This is very interesting that you're coming at this from the position of a of a plan sponsor, right? And
Right.
yeah, well, I'll let you in on the secret. I sell retirement plans, right? So I often sell them to business owners who need to set away money for their family. They need to save. They need to make sure that they're going to be able to retire. And the retirement plan, be it a 401k or 403b, 457, is a vehicle that they're going to use to do
Okay.
that. And so, therefore, they need to take care of themselves. And often our conversation becomes, okay, if I set up this retirement plan, I know it's going to cost me X amount of dollars for a third-party administrator, a system that I fully believe in, because sometimes you need that extra hand. Some people say we'll do it, quote unquote, bundled. I'm going to tell you right now, I sell a lot of bundled plans. I would rather sell a plan with a third-party administrator who's going to take the extra time and have the extra bandwidth to give you personal service. Some folks don't like that, though. Some folks like, not necessarily having it, or they don't want to pay for it. That's fine. Okay, so I like having that extra level of service. They tend to be a little more creative with what the numbers look like. Testing can sometimes be an art rather than a science. And I'll leave it there. So going back to the point before, yeah, I like talking with business owners about how this retirement plan is going to help them help their organization, because without the business owner, you don't have an organization, right? So, so they're very, very important. And in the case of someone who is a solopreneur, even better, because as we go on to our next point, they can actually have profit sharing, share in the match, and have the benefits of having employees and not necessarily having. So, do you have to match?
Which is important, because a lot of unlike corporations, you have so much more to offer an employee. A lot of times our small business owners have problems because they don't really have anything to offer, right? Because they're still kind of navigating what that looks like, far as benefits and things like that. Because their resources are much more limited than, say, a big corporation that's been in business for a number of years.
Great point. And I think as an eternal optimist, we just need to turn that situation around and look at the benefits of working for a small employer. Right? Often you have a little bit more flexibility. Often you have the ability to wear many different hats and get lots of different training. So you get to have more of an expanse of the things that you do and get involved with. Your job is not just one little thing, So there are some advantages for small employers. And when it comes to benefits program, I couldn't agree with you more, Crystal. You may not be able to offer the same kind of benefits, but you'd be surprised at the benefits that you can offer. I'm just case in point, not suggesting that anyone should do this, but in my 20s, I worked for corporate America, but I had a girlfriend that worked for a very small business. And I would go into the office, and I had a particular job, and she would come back with, dare I say, job enrichment that was really cool. Like the things that we learned in school, she was able to do those things, from marketing to sales to organization, which kind of meant she's the only one there, so she has to do it. But it also meant she had a lot more hats that she was able to wear, and a lot more interesting ways to explore her personality and her gifts. So in that situation, having a 401k plan got to be kind of expensive. You've only got 3 or 4 people. That's some sweet cash when you're looking at paying for the expense of the plan, right? Versus having 100 people.
Right.
But I'd like to, yeah. But I'd like to call your attention to two things. One, there are lots of ways you can have different kinds of benefits that you may not get at a large organization that lots of my friends who sell insurance love to talk to small business people about. So pet insurance and things from different companies that are a little bit out of the norm that large insurance companies would go, or large companies would say, we're not doing that. But small companies might say, oh, yeah, I I have children too. I'd like to put them in a program where I could reduce my tax liability. That's not going to cost the employer that much, right?
Right.
So, if you are someone that's working for an employer that has a small business, or you are a small business owner, don't think you have to run with the big guys. You can run
Right.
your story. So that's one, is we can tailor those things to small businesses, and many of us love to do that. So don't think that you're wasting anyone's time. So that's that. And I can't remember the other one that I was going to talk about. Well, suffice it to say, there is this new law out there, the CARES 2.0, that has made it very easy for small business people, especially, I would say business people, anyone that's starting a retirement plan, to get involved. There's a $15,000 credit, and that's a credit rather than a tax, rather than a deduction, but a credit for the amount of the startup of your retirement plan. So, with that amount of money, and many payroll companies, if you go with them that are integrated with your 401k plan, they will actually give you a little bit of a break on that pricing
Oh.
for the payroll as well. So if you're thinking about starting up a retirement plan, then you definitely want to talk to someone like myself, or someone at one of those big investment houses, or your wealth advisor, and say, hey, can I get this done? What are my options here? And here's my situation. How do I make this work? And folks will be happy to help you with that. So that's number one. Secure 2.0 within the last couple of years has made getting a retirement plan easy. The federal government understands that in this country, you need money in order to survive in retirement. And so they're looking at ways to make it easier, A, for people to get into retirement, and B, for people to stay in there, and C, people to actually access that cash if an emergency happens. So there's a lot of nice little perks and rules to have in the retirement plan. So that's one. Number two, matches are flexible if you want them to be. So you can make them flexible, so you don't have to do that. And then number three, let's talk about that bugaboo that all of us kind of wonder about, and that is profit sharing. So if question number one is, why don't I wait till I sell my business, or that's going to be my retirement? And question number two is, do I have to match? Question number three is, do I have to share my profits? Yeah.
But again, it comes down to those benefits, right? And
Yes,
if there's some incentives for individual, I remember in my days when I was working in corporate America, that's what kept me at a company, was the fact that I had profit sharing, and it paid out every quarter. And then of course it got minimized and decreased, and then my interest and desire to be completely committed to that company kind of left too, right? So those are excellent, because you will work hard, because there's some benefit. It's like individuals that are companies that are ESOPs, employee options. You're part of the fabric. Your work matters, right? Because you're part of how you generate the revenue, and it benefits you on a different level. Right?
You're spot on. Partnership creates what we call ownership. ESOPs, employee stock option plans, are specifically ownership. So you are spot on. And that brings out the question of vesting, which means ownership. How long till you're vested? Or if you're an employer, how can I make vesting work for me? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So vesting is what we call ownership. If you're in a plan rather that is has a 5-year cliff for vesting, I never see those, but if I don't know what made me think of that, but if you're in a plan that has a 5-year cliff, that means you have to work for that company for 5 years. Usually the first year doesn't count. So you're looking
Mm-hmm.
at 6 years, and if you do that, then you're 100% vested, and that means that all the money that the employer has put in the plan on your behalf,
Mm-hmm.
um, you get to claim 100% of that after that 6 year until the time that you leave the organization. So
Right.
you want to work there for 5 years to be what we call fully 6 years. I'm sorry, to be fully vested. If you have what we call a safe harbor plan, then you're actually 100% vested in the employer contributions. That is that employer match. Let me put it that way. You're 100% invested in the employer match. And then the
Mm-hmm.
employer can determine their own vesting schedule. And there are
Yeah.
some customary vesting schedules out there, but they're designed to keep long-term employees there in the organization. So the folks that are doing well that you want to keep around, you're hoping they're gonna take advantage of that vesting program, right? And
Right.
like Crystal said, they're gonna have ownership, right? And they're going
Mm-hmm.
to see that because they work harder, they get rewarded for that and have little bits of the companies. All right, so now the question is, I don't want to give up my company just so that people are going to work hard, right? I don't want to make someone a partner if they're an employee necessarily.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we use that word partnership in a very interesting way inside the world of 401k plans. So inside the world of 401k plans, I would like if you could, when you see the word partnership, think employer contribution. Okay.
Mm.
So as an employer, if I decide to give partnership dollars and I can put a vesting schedule on those dollars, and I
Mm-hmm.
can decide the way that works is I'm going to put a pot of money, let's say $10,000 or $500 in this pot that's going to be split up in various ways amongst my employees.
Mm-hmm.
That's partnership.
Right.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with ownership, as in a 30% owner of the business or a 20% owner of the business. So you're not giving away parts of your business. You're just sharing the amount of money that you made as a quote unquote profit. Let's call that employer contribution. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the cool thing about profit sharing is number one, if you are a solopreneur and you put away your monies, your contributions, and you take advantage of the match, the little safe harbor match, if you do that, with that partnership, we can get you closer to $50,000 worth of contributions. Okay. And then we can throw a defined benefit plan on top of that, right? So as a solopreneur, you could put considerable money away, somewhere between $50,000 to $80,000 if you do it right. Talk to someone like me. If you do it
Yeah, talk to me. Talk to me.
right.
Talk to me. Now,
Unfortunately, as an employee, it doesn't quite work out that way.
for a small business, because when I usually talk to small businesses, we think in terms of how long they've been in business.
Mhm.
Is that relevant in in your world? I mean,
No,
generally,
not at all.
well, okay, because look at our businesses. Banks are looking for businesses that have been around a couple of years, and with
Yep.
just showing stability.
Yep.
Loans usually don't really come until 3, 4, 5 years down the line. So
Um,
there's no time frame
for what?
or for a company is saying, okay, I'm starting a business. Let's say they have the capital and what they need, and there's like, do they need to have been in business for a while before they can put something in place? For
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. In fact, I'll give you one story. I think we talked about it where um, I met with this advisor who was a healthcare advisor, and he knew this gentleman that had a business. It was a winery,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just the gentleman and his wife that were working
Mm-hmm.
at the winery,
Mm-hmm.
and they needed to they needed to save for retirement, but they also needed a piece of equipment. As you know, I'm a big wine fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to this person, well, you could borrow the money from the bank for the for the winery equipment. And he said, I haven't really been in business long enough for them to consider me. Okay. What else can I do? I said, well, you're talking to me. And so you could roll your assets out of your old IRA that you have at the business, that corporate America job, roll those assets into a new 401k at your own company, your own 401k, and then take a loan out of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he says, but then I have to pay it back. I'm like, yes, you have to pay it back, but your interest rate is going to be prime plus 1 or 2, and you get to decide that. You do have 5 years to pay it back, and the money goes back to you. It doesn't go to some other entity. So in a way, you're borrowing it from yourself. Now, do I think this is a good idea? In the long run, no. But in order to get around some things, yeah, I mean, it's not a bad way to go, right? Right. So the advantage of a 401k plan over, let's say, a SEP IRA is that you have that borrowing feature. You can borrow up to $50,000, usually once a year, and then you pay it back over a 5-year period. There's no pre-penalty. There's no prepaid penalty. So if you get that bit of equipment, they make the sales, things happen, pay it back early. Not a bad way to go.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, that's good to know because a lot of, like I said, what I found in my industry or with the clientele that I consult with, these are the things they don't know, especially if when they were in a corporate type of environment, they weren't really engaged like that, right? They were employees, right? So they came in,
Yes.
did their job, clocked out when they clocked out, but then when they stepped out to do their own business, so they didn't have the working knowledge of how retirement plans work, because they may not have been at the company long enough to even uh, get the concept of that.
So you kind of went and garbled with what?
So basically, small business owners are quite an interesting species of individuals,
Good word. Yeah.
because they work in their business, right? Not on their business. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of things that we take for granted that they know
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know. And I
Yeah.
will guarantee you one of the things, the movings and the movements of a retirement plan is something that they don't know.
Yeah. Yes, you're spot on, and that's why I have a job. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's it's nice for them to ask me, or it's nice for them to have a cup of coffee with me and have me ask them if they don't feel
Right,
like.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
So,
I found to be the case with a lot of them. There's just things that they are not aware of because wherever they were, whatever companies they were working at before, and as I've said this many times, that most people, especially if they come in a company young, they hear the retirement speech, the 401k, the pension plan goes in
yep.
one ear and out the other. They're like,
Mhm.
well, I'm not going to be here longer than X amount of years anyway, so
Yep.
I don't need to worry about that. It's
Yep.
never going to happen for me. And so
Mhm.
that's the information that they carry over to their when they become entrepreneurs.
Yep. I get it. At some point you have to think, hmm, those of us in this profession are using this jargon, and we're using this jargon for clarity, let's say, but
Mm-hmm.
I think we're also using this jargon for job security, right? And so you really need to be careful and understand what's going on, and just don't assume that the plan that you had at this big corporate job is going to be like the plan that you have here at
Mm-hmm.
your smaller spot. And you don't have to assume that you have to do everything that they did right now. You can
Mm-hmm.
start small,
Mm-hmm.
build, and make that plan the way that you want to make it. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, you could start out saying, okay, we're going to get a plan here for everybody. Maybe you have 10 people working for you and you say, okay, we're going to get a plan. I'm not going to match. Well, we can talk about this later, I suppose, but in actuality, it's not your job as the employer to pay for everyone else's retirement, right? It's their job, right? So if you offer the plan, that's quite a bit. You're paying the money for the plan. Cool. You offer the plan. If they contribute, great. And now you're thinking, all right, how do I hang on to some of those employees that I really want to hang on to?
What happened?
Okay.
Me or you?
What's that? Crystal? Crystal?
I'm here.
Oh, you froze on me. You're still frozen. So while you're frozen,
am I back?
There you go. Now you're back.
Okay. All right. My internet did something weird.
Oh yeah, we are having internet issues. So as the employer, you can say, okay, I'm going to add a match and I'm going to put some extra money in. Remember, the match that you put in is pre-tax, so it's a way to reduce your tax liability. So don't think that $4 you give someone is going to cost you $4. It may cost you significantly less than that. And the monies that you put in for profit sharing, if you say, well, okay, we made some money here. How about if I share this with the people that helped me make it? Okay, that money is also pre-tax. So that doesn't have to cost you as much as you think it's going to. And often when I talk with entrepreneurs, they tell me, okay, I want to put in X amount of dollars myself. I want to max out my profit sharing and I want to put in my contributions. How much is that going to cost me? And often we can make it happen or make things happen to where we can get a significant amount of those dollars in that profit sharing program, that what do we call it? The employer contribution program. We can get a significant amount of those dollars going to the employer. So if you're thinking that, I got to match, I got to share my profits, stop thinking that. If you're thinking this is going to be expensive, stop, because the government wants you to do this and they are helping you by reducing your tax liability and by giving you money as a tax credit to get it done. Right? So it is worth investigating. And when it comes to saving for retirement, we need to do that. So do that.
Do that. Good advice, Jevon. Do that.
All right. So we can recap. Our 3 questions were: number 1, why don't I sell my own business? Or why don't I sell my business and use those as retirement assets? Well, number 1, we don't know what that sale is going to look like, right? And it's very possible that it's not going to be as much as you think it is, at least at that time. Maybe you'll have to wait until the prices come back up, or maybe you'll have some type of emergency or what have you, but it's good to have a backup plan there. Good thing to do there. Number 2, do I have to match? Nope, you don't have to match. And you certainly don't have to match the first year, but depending on your situation, it may behoove you to match in order for you to max out your retirement dreams, your retirement hopes or monies, contributions. And then number 3, do I have to share my company? Nope, you don't have to share your company. We can call profit sharing and employer contribution. It's a way for us in the industry to say this pot of money is going to go to my employees and myself. As an employer, it's going to go to my employees and myself. And the second question is, okay, how much is it going to cost me if I want to put in X? And then we leave it to the experts to figure out how to make that work. Does that make sense?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And one of the things, like I said the other day, we had this conversation on our on my other show on the Business Zone. When it comes to that, and I think this falls under that same premise, is that just like retirement, we can't look at I'm going to be 65 or I'm going to be 70 or 67 or whatever the magical age is today. I can't wait to 5 minutes before I'm about to retire or before I'm about to sell my business, right? I need to be we tell business owners what you need to be doing is knowing that there's an exit strategy on the backside, right? So if you start your business today, then that exit strategy should be part of that. And succession and retirement should be all part of that in that bigger picture when you do your business plan, because that gives you enough time to prepare your business for a sell some 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years out. Then
Yeah.
given time frames, what you need to do so that
Yeah.
you're not just like 2 minutes before retirement going, oh, let me sell my business
Right.
and do that. Now let me ask this other question before we close out. If I am selling my business, and let's
Mhm.
say I get what I want for it, can I then take those dollars? What would I invest that in? Because obviously there's going to be taxes involved.
Oh, well, if I can restate your question, you're saying, let's say I get the money that I have for the business, or I'm going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do in order to hang on to it, reduce my tax liability, and and live on that money? How do I do that? Is that what you're
Right.
asking?
Yeah,
Okay.
and set up. And now I need a plan, right? Because I didn't pre-plan. My business is going to be
What's
my
going to be my
plan,
retirement?
my
Yeah.
retirement. But now I
Yeah.
have that money, and I need that to last me
Yep.
for a number of years. So what is my options when it comes to that? This is those folks that waited too late.
So, well, you know, just briefly, because
I
that's a
know that's
big
a whole
topic.
that could be next week's conversation.
Another show, yeah. But most financial advisors are going to say, okay, we're at we didn't do the pre-work up to it, but now you got a pot of money. And then they're going to say, what's your pot of money? And depending on what your pot of money is and what your goals are, we're going to set up some kind of plan to, number one, get you some income. Number two, hang on to your retirement or to the other assets, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
most people like the idea of getting a paycheck when they retire. So how do
mm-hmm,
we set up a plan where you can continue to get your paycheck, a
mm-hmm,
paycheck, and
mm-hmm.
grow your assets? So there's a very good chance that, depending on the advisor that you talk with, there's going to be a few products involved. One would most assuredly be an annuity. Most advisors are going to say, okay, we're going to take your X amount of dollars, we're going to put it in this company's plan,
Mm-hmm.
maybe with an insurance wrapper on it. Those dollars can come to you free of tax. We can work that strategy out. Number two, you're going to get Social Security. So let's see what that looks like. And then, of course, number three, we're going to have to take some of those assets and put those in the market so that you don't run out of money. So that means we've got to do some soul searching. How long do you expect to live? How long do your parents live? What do you expect to do? Do you
Mm-hmm.
want to drive around to all the national parks in your motorhome? Do you and your spouse want to ride motorcycles around the country and visit and go from grandkid to grandkid and just make that circuit? Or you want to chuck it all and live in some place in South America where rent is cheap and, and the sun shines most of the time? So we
Mm-hmm.
really have to figure out what it is that you want to do. And I would say most likely, uh, most of us are going to have a fairly, dare I say, simple plan that's not too tough to understand, where we have a fixed amount of income coming in. We
Mm-hmm.
have some Social Security coming in, and that's what we're going to live on. We have some amount of money that is going to be in the market so that it continues to grow. And that's pretty much what we're going to do. Now, inside there, depending on how much money we have and what our real dreams are, we may need
Mm-hmm.
to do what we call estate planning, which I don't really do, but do some estate planning where we want to set up monies for our charities or set up monies for our kids,
Mm-hmm.
and take care of the folks that we love and the organizations that we want to make happen, right? To keep
Mm-hmm.
going. That's all in that mix. So I would say the first thing you ought to do is number one, as Crystal mentioned, don't wait till the last minute. Don't wait till you have the money. Don't do that, right? I mean, you're going to get the money, or you want to get the money. There's nothing wrong with having a situation where, you talk to that financial advisor about, okay, this is what's coming down the pike. There's nothing wrong with that. And like many folks, for example, my father, for example, he talked to a financial advisor, not me, but he went and talked to a financial advisor, and I was very suspect. But this person actually gave my father the book and helped him prepare the book that has, this is where all the insurance policies are. This is who the contact people are. This is where the dead bodies are buried. This is the real estate. This is the deeds, and then of course I asked him, so who's going to be, taking care of this book when you're gone? And he said, well, you are. And I thought, well, I need to see the book. I want to see the book. So there are those organizations, and we've got a couple of them. And if you need, you can give me a call, and we can get you started. And then there's some other folks who can help you fill out that book.
Isn't it interesting that, and I find this to be the case, most cases, you're expert in what you do, you've been working at it, but your family always go to somebody else.
It's there is that whole thing. There are organizations that say start with your friends and family.
Uh-huh.
I like being the second voice. And I say that to all my clients. I like being the second voice as much as I like being the first voice. And with my family, I'm happy to be their, what do you call it? Sounding board.
Okay.
Happy to do that.
Okay.
I tend to be quite emotional.
Okay.
Looking at things. I may not be as rational as I should be because it is my family.
Right,
so
right.
I'm super happy that my father went to a financial advisor that was in his congregation or is in his, he could get to, right? He can call me on the phone, but it's tough for him to fly over to me where he can just drive over to this person.
Yeah, I see. That makes sense. Yeah.
Same thing with my sisters, I think that's fine. You've got someone, they chose someone dramatically younger than me. So they're going to be around for a while. That's what they're thinking. I can't argue with that. I have
no.
Fine. But they found someone they could trust. They asked me about some of the things that they did, and I said, that sounds good. I think this is someone that you should work with. And they were like, cool, seal of approval, off they go. And I think that's wonderful. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And that person's not going to be near as, because I would say to my sister, are you serious? Really? Right? Which is not something that you need to hear from a financial advisor. Right? So don't worry about that. So I think it's great. I think it's awesome.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. Well, this is a great show because, like I said, most entrepreneurs or solo practitioners, they don't have all of this knowledge because they're just trying to run their businesses. In most cases, their first mindset is, you got two personas for business owners. You have them that just jump right out there and just take all kinds of risks, lose all kind of money. And then you have those that are super cautious and they only stay in the lane that they know and they don't venture out. So those are that in my client base. That's the kind of clients I have. They either all or nothing.
Yep. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So that's just the way it is with them. Well, great show. Great information. Thank you so much.
Well, great. So next time we'll talk about the other 4 questions or 5 questions that we have that business owners should be asking with regard to a plan. And we'll go from there. And of course, want to thank everybody for coming. And Crystal, you want to get the last word and take us out here?
Yeah, like we always say, don't wait till the last moment.
Yeah.
Retirement might not be quite so pleasant.
Well said, well said. That's all I have to say about that. Don't wait till the last moment. All righty, everyone. It was great chatting with you as always. Always a pleasure to chat with you, Crystal. And see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.